What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Kumite Lifestyle. Today's show is brought to you by Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Smyrna and White Belt Surfer. Today, I'm honored to sit down with Adam Ideson, someone who I've known for a few years through Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And what makes today's show pretty special is that it was shot and recorded at Gracie University last month in Torrance, California. So to start off 2026, this conversation is raw, authentic, and Adam and I dive deep into not only jiu-jitsu, but our perspectives on life, business, relationships, our ups and downs, and more importantly, how you should act not only in a professional setting, but how you should act every single day. This episode embodies truth and being vulnerable and understanding that our paths are continuing to evolve. And just like jiu-jitsu, this conversation flows from different subject matters, something that can resonate with all walks of life. So if you're someone that enjoys real, inspiring conversations, this one's for you. So let's sit back and let's enjoy this conversation with Adam Ideson. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Kumite Lifestyle. And today we were joined by Adam Ideson. And Adam is someone that I've known for a few years now through Gracie University. So jiu-jitsu is something that we're going to talk about. Adam, how's it going today?
Amazing, man. I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And just so the viewers know, I reached out to you 2 weeks ago, just out of curiosity, if you'd be interested, because you're definitely someone that I've respected from a jiu-jitsu sense. And when I've gotten a chance to know you a little bit over the years, especially when we went out to dinner, I got a chance to kind of, get your insight on stuff. But I remember I was texting you, you said, "Hey, Nick, are you going to ICP?" which is the Instructor certification program out here at Gracie University. I said, "I am." And then you brought the idea of maybe talking to Henner about it. And to be honest, I wasn't quite sure how that would go because I don't have that same relationship like you do. But here we are. So the background's a little bit different, guys. Normally, I'm in home back in Delaware in my office. But today, as you see, both of our backgrounds are the wooden. So we're actually at Gracie University. So Adam, I'll kind of let you start there. So what is Gracie University and what's this whole setup that people are looking at?
Oh, got you. So, you mentioned that you had started your podcast, and I'm a big fan of anybody who's starting out doing new stuff, right? Anybody who's starting a business, starting anything that's just creative. And you've always been a great guy. You've been great on the mats. And I thought, you invited me to do this, and I've only been on one other podcast. So it was a very cool opportunity. I'm very honored to be here. I appreciate you for that. And because we were going to be here, and I said, hey, maybe we just do it at Gracie University so we can be face-to-face as opposed to across a Zoom, across the country. It's just, I appreciate face-to-face interactions. I think that oftentimes we lose the human connection. And even the people that are watching this, however many do watch it, will be doing that through a screen. So I just wanted to connect here live, and they have this room at Gracie University. And I know that Henner is a supporter of all of his students, all of his instructors. So I mentioned that you had this podcast, said, hey, can we use a room? He said, absolutely, without a doubt. And here we are.
Man, that's awesome. So you said Nick Arndt has a podcast?
Yeah, that's the rumor. That's the rumor. I told him. And of course, Henner knows who you are through your affiliation, your instructorship through Gracie University. And of course, you with Howard Steele out in Delaware. So he was immediate. I was an immediate yes from him.
Man, that's so awesome. And it just goes to show just the collaboration and that, professional relationship that you build over the years, and something that I definitely want to expound on. So Adam, I want to kind of start, if we can go way back, when did you start your martial arts journey? I don't want to say jiu-jitsu journey because I'm not sure if you've ever trained in other arts, but let's start there, and then hopefully that will take us to the future. So when did you start your martial arts journey?
So I started in 2010, and I was drugged to a jiu-jitsu class. I had a buddy who came out of the military. He and I grew up next door to each other. He was almost 8 years younger than me, and he stayed with me when he got back from deployment as he was acclimating to civilian life again. At the time, I was 30 years old at the time. He was 23. And to give you a picture of him, he was about 5'7", 215. And he's in shape. He looked like somebody who came out of the UFC, tattoos on the arms, the whole deal.
Yeah.
And he came down the stairs one night and said, dude, there's a jiu-jitsu school down the street, we should go. And I quickly responded, you should go, and I'll see you when you get back. I had no interest, and that lack of interest was because of a lack of knowledge, really.
Sure.
The only thing I understood was the UFC, and I didn't understand the UFC. I just knew of the UFC, and I did not feel like I wanted to get in a cage, get punched in the face at 30 years old. As you can see, I'm not a very big guy, and it just didn't make sense to me. But he gave me grief every day for a few weeks, and the long story short is I finally went to a class. And like many people, when they experienced jiu-jitsu for the first time, I got smashed up by a 14-year-old child who mopped the mat with me. And then the adults did the same thing, and I was hooked. I went home very demoralized and very beat up, and woke up the next day very uncomfortable physically and mentally. I was like, what just happened? How is it possible that I had no control of my entire life for 90 minutes straight? And I went back the next day. I started training twice a week. 3 months later, I was training 3 times a week. And 7 months later, I quit my job. And this is all I've done ever since.
Man, that's so awesome. And just to hear that, and I love how you said, like, you got beat, or more like, because every time I hear, people tell me how they started, it's usually they got humbled in some type of way. So whether they wrestled someone or grappled someone who was much smaller, or they maybe watched someone like a friend or a family member do jiu-jitsu, and then you realize quickly that everything changes once the fight hits the ground. And for those watching, like, just to give you a quick snipe history, so the UFC was created in the early 90s, and then Royce Gracie, who's almost accredited to being like the father of modern day jiu-jitsu, if you will, or MMA, that kind of, I guess, spearheaded, the birth of jiu-jitsu, which is why you see it more common nowadays. And now, like yourself, you started jiu-jitsu. And something that I always ask my guests or anyone that comes on, or just in passing, do you wish you would have started jiu-jitsu much sooner after the fact?
I feel everybody who joins jiu-jitsu, judo, whatever martial art they join, but jiu-jitsu for sure, because that's my most experienced, the most experience I am in. Those guys come in and everybody says, man, I wish I had started earlier. They watch the kids class, like, I wish I started when I was 5, when I was 6. We have guys that come in. I've had people start in their 70s. And it's a beautiful thing. And the concept is the only time is now. So the right time is whenever you started. And arguably, if I had started when I was younger, maybe I wouldn't have stuck with it. Maybe I wouldn't have liked it. Oftentimes I've heard people say that the earlier you start, the earlier you quit in many things. So oftentimes people want their kid in, people call up 3 years old, I want my kid to do jiu-jitsu. And it's great. And maybe they do it from 3 to 5, 3 to 8, 3 to 10, and then they quit. Or maybe they stay in it for life. But whenever you start is the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. So whether you're 5, 30, or 70, and I'm glad you touched on that, because as instructors, and guys, just so you know, Adam runs a very successful school in Phoenix, and I'll let him talk about that. But I know as school owners or instructors, we see people of all walks of life. So I think it's also how jiu-jitsu is presented, because there is a difference, I feel, in how it is organized and how it's presented to the audience. And again, it's not to negate or talk down on other schools or affiliations, because everyone's upbringing was different. But the way that Gracie University has packaged this systemized, curriculum, as we know, it really does kind of tailor to the everyday person, if you will. So as you've transitioned into your jiu-jitsu journey, I'm curious, was there any, did you have any ups or downs maybe early on? And did you compete in jiu-jitsu, or is it something that you did more just recreational, for the self-defense? Ultimately, what I'm asking is, like, what was your why of sticking with jiu-jitsu? Sure.
So when I started, it was a sports school, competition school, and the instructor was a judo and jiu-jitsu black belt. So we did judo and jiu-jitsu. Every class started with uchikomis and judo, and then we went to jiu-jitsu after the fact, and everybody was in the grind. And as far as to what you're saying, as far as the differences, maybe those of us that are part of Gracie University, we obviously believe in the system in which we're delivering jiu-jitsu. But I think that it's right for the people who feel it's right. The other ways that schools kind of disseminate that information, or that they teach, there's nothing wrong with any of those. And it's just what gravitates towards you. What do you align with?
Yeah.
So I think that in anything, whether it's jiu-jitsu or it's working out, it's yoga, it's Pilates, whatever it is that you do, it's about finding alignment.
Yeah.
And for us, this is what aligned for me. After 5 years underneath instructor who was teaching more sport and competition-based jiu-jitsu, I moved over to the Gracie University model because I felt that it made more sense to me. it made more sense in the systemization of it and teaching self-defense first through the combatives program or the bully-proof program, and then moving into all of the sportive aspects of jiu-jitsu. I just liked the foundation of it personally and felt that so many people were coming into our school asking for self-defense, and we were not teaching self-defense out the gate. And that's not to say that anyone who trains jiu-jitsu cannot defend themselves by any stretch, but there is a difference between training with punches, not training with punches, strikes, kicks, eye gouging, things like this, and understanding how do I defend myself and really manage distance in a different way. And one way that I would explain it is that if you have a deck of cards, you can play many games. And what you need to understand is what is the strategy and the rules of that game, what are the objectives of that game, and being able to say, hey, you know, right now we're doing something that's what we might call fight simulation, or we might say more street sparring, or is it no-gi, or is it gi jiu-jitsu? It's just the same thing with different rules and different strategies, and I just like playing all of them. I'm not disparaging to any of them or pro one or con the other. I like it all, and I just appreciate the way that Gracie University has systematized that and breaks that down for us as instructors, for us as students, and it allows for just a different approach to the game.
Absolutely. So ultimately, as you're saying, it is a choice. So whether your reasons are sport, jiu-jitsu, or I'm sorry, sport, self-defense, whatever that reason is, I think there's something for everyone as far as what you're looking for. And it's interesting because, you know, when I started this whole podcasting, I always do research on each guest, whether it's just through conversations or if they have more information online. But I watch podcasts, especially jiu-jitsu, just to kind of, see what's popular out there and what people's mindset is. And and I've learned, Adam, that whether you're an instructor for many years or, even just starting off, and you said so yourself, that people do jiu-jitsu for self-defense. And even the instructors that don't necessarily teach it or market it understand that there is a need and value for it. But like you said, that's not always the case. Not all schools are, the same. And then you mentioned Gracie University really being that model, if you will, that introduces self-defense in the beginning, kind of the heartbeat, if you will, and then it carries through. So I'm curious, when you decided to become a CTC, which is a certified training center, were you already teaching before that? Because you explained why you wanted to jump over the GU, but I feel like, I don't know, just knowing you, teaching is in your blood and you're really good at explaining things. So I'm curious, did that start early on? Was it maybe a friend saying, hey, like Adam, like you can actually teach this? And then, you know what I mean?
Yeah. My first teaching experience was a kids class, which I think is common for most of us that were coming up in any school. And my instructor simply asked, would you like to help in the kids class today? I said yes, and I taught with him, and really I was an uki, so I was just the assistant. I was not teaching very much.
I like that word.
And I may be mispronouncing that, but that's the way it's always been.
That's the way it's, uki, yeah.
So it was uki and tori, and that was what was said in our school, again, with the judo backgrounds.
Yeah.
So it was just, will you uki in class? So I did, and the following day, a child who was in that class, his name was Matt, I still remember him very well.
Sure.
He brought me a drawing. He had used a pencil and a piece of notebook paper, and he drew a picture of me and him. And like in the drawing, he's throwing a kick, and there was no kicks in the class that we taught, but that's the picture he drew, big smile on his face. And there was a caption bubble he drew over my head, and it just in big letters said, "Good job, Matt," with 3 exclamation points. And what I took away from that was like, I just become a role model. And I had no intention of becoming a role model at that time in my life. I never considered myself a role model. I was just living life. And it hit me in a really weird way. And I still have that drawing to this day. And I think that that's really what pushed me down the path of, this is something that I should do. This is something that I'm called to do. And it eventually became what my purpose is today.
Yeah, man, that's so awesome. And before we jump into more of your, teaching ability in your school and what you've learned from that, what else do you do besides jiu-jitsu? And I'm asking you this not only because I'm on the air right now with you, but I don't think I've ever asked you. So aside from jiu-jitsu, what is life like for Adam when he's not teaching or when he's not at GU or, rocking out that amazing jiu-jitsu shirt that you're wearing? Are there other interests in your life, which I'm sure there is, but like what else keeps you grounded, busy, and motivated, if you will?
Yeah, so I mean, jiu-jitsu is a lot of it. Like I would not deny that. I have 2 academies in Phoenix. It keeps me very busy. I have a remarkable team. I'm blessed with like one of the most amazing teams, which is what makes the whole thing work.
Yeah.
And I simply get to be a part of this phenomenal team, phenomenal community that we have in Phoenix. Outside of that, I enjoy biohacking. I'm really, really big into health and wellness. I'm a functional medicine certified health coach. And if I'm not studying jiu-jitsu or I'm not working on the business, I'm reading research papers and really boring stuff, trying to better understand my own biology. I was very sick in 2016 into 2017, and long story short, through a functional medicine doc, I was able to discover some things that I had going on. I had mercury toxicity, I was high in thallium, I had some toxic molds that I thought, when somebody said they had a toxic mold syndrome when I was younger, I thought that was like some made up hypochondriac thing. And then I found out, oh, that's really why I feel bad. I actually have this.
Yeah.
And
it's a real thing.
It is a real thing for sure, and
Yeah.
something that anybody who's experienced it or is experiencing it knows. But getting that on track and getting back to truly feeling well again and recognizing how amazing I can feel, and really late in life recognizing that I'm a giant nerd and recognizing that I'm a walking, talking biochemistry set, and that I'm capable of experimenting with that and working to optimize that. So when I'm not working to optimize my business or optimize the way that I'm instructing or the way that I'm engaging and building the teams over at the academies, I'm working on optimizing myself.
Yeah. So it's that self-growth.
100% self-growth, and just the mindset of how do I get better with everything I do. And there's a lot of cliche around that, and a lot of cliche around gratitude and working towards self-improvement. But I really believe that if you, at your core, go towards that, not only do you get better, but everyone around you benefits from that. And I grew up as a people pleaser and like, what can I do for everybody? And I still fall into that category in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But what I recognized as I got healthier was the more I poured into myself, the better I was for everyone else, and not in a negative people pleasing way, but I'm just a better instructor. I'm a better friend. I'm a better brother. I'm a better son. I'm just a better person for everybody else when I simply take care of myself.
Yeah, man. And I think that could resonate with everyone, that's watching this or not, just anyone out there, especially people that, work in the people business. I know something that my instructor, Howard Steele, says, and I think you also said it too, like, we're not just in the people business. We are, but we're in the people business that just happens to do jiu-jitsu. And when I heard that, that really struck a chord and said, man, that makes sense. So I get why we do those little things. And something that you touched on was being your best version, because I think too many times, and it's always after the fact with anything we do in life, I look back and I say, man, I taught a great class, I had a good conversation with so-and-so, but was I in the right, state of mind to even give that advice, So, and just so you're aware, when I found out that you wanted to be on this podcast and you had interest, and then you sent me the link of the podcast that you were on, I didn't listen to the whole thing, but there were some segments that you said, and there's one thing, Adam, that you said to me in person in the past at one of these past ICPs was, the person you are on the mat has to be the person off the mat. And I remember hearing, I said, man, that is so true, because there's a lot of people out there that are just faking it, especially influencers. And I feel like people that are not just goal driven, but they, preach integrity, right? And they want you to do all the right things, but it's heartbreaking. And I've had to learn this the hard way, that sometimes the people we look up to aren't necessarily the right people outside of that, or off the mat or behind the screens, if you will. So I love that mindset that you shared on the podcast and what you told me. So I want to kind of dive into that. So I know it's easier said than done, but how do you do that though? So meaning, like, when you tell students, like, hey, live a good life in jiu-jitsu on the mat, but how do you translate that off the mat? Was there a moment in time where you had to have a conversation with yourself and you're like, man, I have to be a better person, not just for myself, but for those that I lead?
Yeah. So the original piece to that came from Henner and Hidong Gracie when I first started.
Sure.
And there was this conversation of who you are on the mat should be who you are off the mat. You shouldn't be flipping a switch and, you're this good person, nice person, kind person, giving person here, but you're not that there. And of course that makes sense to everybody, but how do you live it? And Henner at one point gave this talk called the 10 Black Belts. And he did it, the first time I heard it, I want to say it was 2013. And what he kind of pressed towards everybody was this idea of how much time, effort, energy, sacrifice, etc. does a jiu-jitsu practitioner put into earning their rank, earning a black belt? And of course the answer is a ton. Anyone who has done that has gone through this process, or even from the outside looking in, the amount of hours, the amount of sacrifice, the injuries, the comebacks, the recovery, the eating, the sleeping, the discipline of what it takes to do that. And the answer is that somebody who earns a black belt has put an exponential amount of energy into that. And what his question was what is your rank and everything else in your life?
Yeah.
What is your rank as a communicator? What is your rank as a dad? What is your rank as a husband? What is your rank as a wife? What is your rank in all these things? And even breaking it down further, what is your rank in health? And just this kind of concept. And it really resonated with me. So I owe that, 100% to that talk and to him. And I'm sure that he got that from somebody down in his family or wherever the case was. So we're just recycling information from others. And sometimes we're regurgitating it. Other times we're reciting it. And sometimes we're adapting it to our own life. And I took that and I started thinking about those types of things. Like, when's the last time I put in some sort of strategy or some sort of reps like I do in jiu-jitsu in other parts of my life? And where am I falling short? Where do I not even have a white belt yet? I haven't even tied the belt on in this category of my life to start earning a rank and improving in that. And being that I was in a position of instructorship, which was a role of mentorship and leadership, it was what part of me is in any way a hypocrite? And how does that sit with me? And it didn't sit well with me. And there were times in my life, for sure, like all people, where I was not proud of something I had done, something I had said, a lifestyle habit that I had. And it became this growing process until I got to where I felt like I was truly earning rank in all of that.
Yeah.
And I will not say that I'm a black belt in any of those things, but I would say that I'm constantly on the mat, so to speak, and doing those reps and working on how do I improve in all those areas. So yeah, there's been lots of checks and balances over the years, and there continue to be. And I do have, I'd like to say I'm a recovering perfectionist. So I'm never good enough, and I'm my biggest critic, and I'm always working to be better for myself because I want to be better for everyone else.
Dude, that's so deep. And I love how you summarize that, and the analogy that you used, or a couple analogies about, being white belts in different areas that you mentioned that Henner has shared with you, and now you're passing that along. And I think a lot of information that's given to us from people, like I used to be the person that if someone told me something great or like a quote or whatever, it's like, oh, that's cool. That person made it up so that I can share it. But a lot of it is, is recycled. But I think it takes an honest and a humble person to say, hey, I learned this from so-and-so. And I've shared what you said that one day with other students, and I'm quick to say, yeah, Adam Ideson, this instructor, that I met, not just some instructor, but this amazing instructor that I met, shared this with me. It resonated and it clicked for me right away. And I'm sharing this with you because you're an instructor, or maybe you're someone that, has aspirations. And sometimes we get information. It's like the sponge analogy. So like when I teach, I'm like, guys, imagine there's a sponge, right? It's wet. Like when you do that, all that information, all that water that's, leaving isn't useful. It's just information that you weren't ready to obtain that day. But it's still damp though. So like you gain something. So that day I had a lot to, show for it. So I thank you for sharing that. And when you talk about, being a white belt or, so starting off things, you're a white belt, maybe you're a blue belt and other things. So I'm curious, Adam, are you close to being a black belt at other, areas of your life?
What's interesting about rank is it's very objective. And
sure,
in jiu-jitsu, you ultimately turn the power of your identity of rank over to somebody else to let you know when you are what you are. And that's a fascinating concept and something that's probably deeper than I could explain with any type of vocabulary that would make sense. But I think it's fascinating that in many aspects of our life, but specifically in martial arts, we give over the control to be told when we are something to someone else. And of course, everything needs a filter, everything needs a check to determine like, what is it not?
Yeah.
But what I would say is that a lot of the time, a black belt will say when they get their black belt, that's really when the journey begins.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you get your black belt would be the same as getting a degree in college. You don't have a day of work experience yet. You've just done the work to earn the degree, and now you get to go apply that degree. So in that, I think that every day I'm just applying. And whether I've earned the degree or not, in whatever category that may be, it's not really relevant. What's relevant is that I continue to be disciplined. I continue to do the work. I continue to look at myself critically and in a positive but corrective way, and go after being better in whatever that is. So for me, it's not about earning the rank in that, it's the concept. And the kids, when I earned my black belt, the kids at the school, some of them asked, how did you get that? And now what? And there's all the questions that would come up in kids' classes.
Yeah.
And I would say that I earned my black belt by failing more than most people are willing to. And I would say that when I started, I always thought like the black belts knew everything. They were like these almost like Matrix-like Neo characters that just had it all figured out.
Yeah.
And some of them arguably are.
Yeah.
But what I think is that I was reaching towards mastery at the end of the day. I thought a black belt was a master of this art, and many of them are. But for me, what I feel is that mastery is like the horizon. Every time I take a step towards the horizon just moves another step away. So the mastery of anything in my life, or the mastery of jiu-jitsu, is not really a destination as much as a direction.
Yeah.
And I believe it was Vince Lombardi that said that you aim for perfection and you land in excellence.
Yeah.
So as long as we're always reaching for those things in our health, in our wellness, in our communication, in our openness to receive, in our understanding that we're fallible, if we continue to go down those roads, then we become better.
Yeah.
And as we become better, the people around us become better. And we put off this kind of energetic expression that raises everybody up. And I'm not saying I can raise anybody up, but I'm saying that if you're around me, my hope is that something comes back to you or reflects to you or comes out in a way that makes you question something in your life, makes you want to do something better, or at minimum, you walked away with a smile.
Yeah, man. And it is interesting how, like, so you mentioned your black belt, which, by the way, huge congratulations.
Thank you.
On you for that. And that's something that I did want to, touch on, but you kind of brought it up. So before I ask you that, it's interesting how, like, when we chase things, right? Whether it's, something materialistic or even a black belt, like you're saying, a lot of times we're in such a race to get there. And then, like you said, it's like the finish line moves again. Mm-hmm. So I feel as humans, and I could be wrong, but I feel like we're never 100% satisfied, and that's okay, because that hunger, that thirst to still want to go further, that's what keeps us being better, as you said there. So man, that's awesome. So you got your black belt, and I remember a couple years ago, I don't know if you were just joking. I said, man, Adam, like, when are you gonna get your black belt? You said probably never. Jokingly, of course, but the thing is, I kind of understood the sentiment, because from what I got, there was that there's still a long ways to go, and maybe at the time you weren't sure either. And I also know that you've battled injury too over the years. So before we jump into the black belt, not test, but kind of like that phase, if you will, with what you can share, talk about some of your setbacks in jiu-jitsu, maybe some injuries that it kind of sidelined you, but it still kept you going. And because I'm sure there were moments you said to yourself, man, like, what's the point of this? If I can't do, jiu-jitsu physically, you know what I mean? So, like, I'm interested to know, like what your mindset is with that and how you kept progressing forward, because motivation's one thing, but it's the discipline that keeps someone going.
Yeah, I'm not a very motivated person. I think of myself more as a driven person. So setbacks are setbacks. I don't sit back and, I can't do this. It's how do I adapt and how do I overcome? The one time that stands out to me when you say setback, I had a car accident in 2018, and that was kind of the beginning of like the decomposition of my body in a way. I just kept catching after the accident. It caused a back injury. After the back injury, knees started to go, hips started to go. Like, it was a weird progression post-accident over the next few years that just was putting me down.
Yeah.
And after that, I recognized, like, I couldn't move the same way I used to. I could not twist the way I used to. I was not as quick as I used to be. And even though I was doing all the PT and all the right things, nothing was really bringing me back to the level that I was at.
Yeah.
And there's a movie called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's a Tarantino movie.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you the names of the characters. I'm not a big movie guy, but I did watch this movie. And there's a scene where I believe it's Leonardo DiCaprio's character. He's going through like kind of a downturn in his acting career. He's playing an actor in the movie. And he's talking to this child who had her character is like a very mature, like old soul child. And she's questioning him, like, what's wrong with him? And he ultimately said, I've outlived my usefulness. And I was watching that and I was like, oh, like it like hit me. I was like, that's what I feel like right now. Like, I feel like I have outlived my usefulness because I'm at a position where I'm not going to be able to tap all the guys on the mat anymore. Like I was ahead of my team for sure. And this was this whole process of like, well, if there even the chance that one of my guys can tap me, I can't be the head instructor anymore. I can't lead this team. And what do I do about that? Because I don't see the light right now. I'm doing all this physical therapy. I'm doing all the work. I'm eating perfectly. I'm literally everything I can do. And I'm not getting past this certain point. I'm still injured. And I spoke with Henner about it, and a conversation with him and a conversation with a few other guys who I truly respect. And in one of those conversations, it simply was brought up that jiu-jitsu is one of the only sports ever where the players challenge the coach to do something. Like Michael Jordan was never challenging Phil Jackson to a shooting contest or a dunking contest.
Yeah.
And LeBron James is not challenging him, and so on and so forth. Tom Brady wasn't challenging Bill Belichick to get out on the field and outthrow him. And that was an interesting point. So it was like, how do I pivot and still add massive amounts of value? How do I still give? And how do I still grow myself? And that was probably the biggest challenge, was working through the weeks that it took me to come to this conclusion that I'm still useful.
Yeah. Because
that has always been the whole point, was to be useful. And I believe that as long as you have the right mindset, you can always be useful. And I have still deal with some injuries, of course. I'm better than I was, but I'm delivering in a different way now. 15 and a half years into my jiu-jitsu journey, I'm delivering in a different way on the mat than I used to for my team. And I think my team is better than they've ever been. I think my community is better than they've ever been. And it simply was a matter of mindset. But if you work off of motivation, you can lose motivation.
Easily, yeah.
If you work off of being driven, you're only driven.
Yeah.
And when I look to the people that I admire the most in their level of usefulness, their level of productivity, to what they're contributing to society, to the world, to an individual person, the people that I look at the most and I kind of analyze in my own way, they're not motivated people. They're driven people.
Yeah.
You look at somebody, whether you love him or hate him, you look at somebody like Elon Musk. How many failures has this guy had? How many things have quite literally blown up? How many, and some of those were designed to blow up, in fairness, right? They knew those were going to explode. But how many times has this guy had setback after setback? And when you listen to almost everybody who is at a high level of success, there's failure all throughout their story. There's failure and comeback. And I think when you look at the human story, that everybody loves the comeback story. Yeah. Everybody loves rooting for the underdog.
Yeah.
And, Joe Rogan has said, be the hero of your own movie, I think. I don't know if he's the first person to say it, but that's really true.
I like that.
And I think that most people don't even look at it this way. Like, nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to pick you up. You may have the best family in the world. You might have the best spouse on the planet for you. You may have all these good things, but you have to do the work.
Yeah.
And for me, I just live in that every day. And when I wake up, all I think about is how many minutes do I have, man? Not just today, but how many minutes do I have before I'm gone? I don't know how long I have. None of us do. So when I get up, I'm not the guy who's going to roll over and hit the snooze button and get 15 more minutes. I get up and go, I cannot believe that I got to wake up today. And how many minutes do I have before I have to get to sleep so I can get up and do it again tomorrow? Mm-hmm. And do I get tomorrow? Because I don't know.
Yeah.
So for me, I am just driven to do the best I can in whatever it is I'm doing every single day.
Man, that's so deep, dude. And yeah, like awesome response. And man, that was, like you said something, how driven. And, I've had other podcast guests on. I've talked to other people, and you're right. Like, motivation can take you so far, but it fades so quickly. And a good example would be New Year's. How many people make New Year's goals, but by the end of January, February, it's like the gyms are packed, but then come March, right? So it's a prime example of just that. And it can't be easy, and meaning, like, I know how hard you work based on what I've seen, and I saw the video of your new school, and something that you said, Adam, at every ICP, and again, it always seems to be when Adam talks, meaning that I'm very good at listening, and it's something that I'm, always working on. But when there's someone in the room that I can learn from, or better, if someone can empower me, right? Not even just from a jiu-jitsu sense. And I feel like you have that ability to empower those that are willing to listen and choose to listen. But something that you said about your team that you said earlier was your goal is to kick Gracie University's ass and everything that it does. And when the first time I heard that, I'm thinking, this dude's crazy. A, just to say that, and B, to say in a room with the Gracies, but no one said anything. And I'm sure people were like, yeah, dude, whatever. But I listened. I was like, no, bro, that's That's a fantastic goal. I don't know at the time you were getting close to that, or if you're still there. I don't know, but I thought that was just an amazing concept that you had. So that's awesome. So I'm curious, do you feel like your school has finally kicked GU's ass?
No, no, I do not. But it is a goal.
Yeah.
And the goal is to be better than Gracie University, to be clear. And what that means is a lot of things. GU has a beautiful facility. GU has a phenomenal crew of people, from the operations team, through the support team, through the instructors on the mat, through the students that are in this building. This is a phenomenal place to be. And I'm not a super woo-woo person, but there's an energy inside of this building when you show up, and anybody who has been here and experienced it, they know.
Yeah.
And it's this idea of can do. And we're not bigger than Gracie University yet. We don't have more students than Gracie University yet. But I do believe that from a culture standpoint, if we're not beating them, we're with them.
Yeah.
And I said that in front of Henner and Hedon because I want them to know that that's what our goal is.
Yeah.
And it's a goal that we're going to attain. We're going to get there. The team knows that this is what our true direction is.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that it's disrespectful to Gracie University, the people that work here, to Henner and Hedon Gracie themselves.
Sure.
What I feel it is it's nothing but admiration and respect. And one way to look at it is like GU is kind of the mothership of the Gracie University Certified Training Centers, of which we are a part. And in that, it's like the parent. It's like the parent company. And what does every parent want for their child? They want their child to be better. They want their child to be better than them, to be more successful than them, to have more happiness than them, to have a better, more fulfilled life than them. They want them to be better than. So the best respect, the biggest honor that we can pay Gracie University, Henner and Hedon, the entire Gracie family, for what they provided through Jiu-Jitsu, what they provided through the opportunities for us to open certified training centers, is to work to be better than them.
Yeah.
And that's why that's the goal.
Yeah, man. And like, you're the only instructor aside, I mean, not including the GU instructors, but, you know, the only CTC owner that I know that's actually, you know, spoke that into existence. And it's something that I just always remembered you saying. And then when I saw that you started that, second school, if you will, and that amazing, beautiful facility. So I just want to say like what you're doing is awesome. But yeah, of course. And then you talked about your team. What makes your team different than any other team, not just jiu-jitsu, but what are you doing, Adam, as the leader that you are, that's producing not just good instructors, but high quality, aside from what Gracie University offers them through the instructor certification? But what do you do, back at home? Like what message do you relay to them that gets them on board? Because it's hard sometimes when you have 10, 15 people, and sure, they all share the same vision, but not everyone's going to be fully on board. And maybe that's the case or not the case with you, but like the way you speak about your team and the way you speak about your key players, if you will, I feel like there's something that you're doing that really dials them in. So like, what's the mindset there when you're leading your team back home?
I don't know that I can answer that question. I think that's a question for my team.
Yeah.
To be very honest, and have them say whatever it is that they feel inside of that school or why they wanted to be a part of the team. But what I believe is that excellence breeds excellence. So if I work towards being the most excellent I can be, that will attract somebody else who wants to do the same thing. And that does not mean that I am excellent. It simply means that's what I'm working towards.
Yeah.
And when somebody sees that level of drive and motivation, I think that like attracts like. There's a concept that opposites attract, and that may be true in certain concepts, but like attracts like, I feel, is more true. And especially in this situation.
Yeah.
So when people see that I have this desire for this vision, I share what the vision is, and they go, well, maybe I want to be a part of that too. And when we have those conversations, I'm not interested in somebody who maybe wants to be a part of it. Do you want to be a part of this? And we have this idea at our school that if you're going to be on the team, you're going to row the boat in the same direction, at the same pace, at the same speed, with the same intention that all of us are. And if you're not willing to do that, if you're going to slow down your speed, if you're going to not paddle the boat, if you're going to paddle in the opposite direction, then you got to walk the plank. So it's row the boat or walk the plank.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to be here, it's no problem. Maybe 6 months ago you felt like super inspired, you were motivated for it, and now you're not. It's no problem. It's no hard feelings. But speak up and say, yeah, I'm not feeling this anymore, so that we can adapt appropriately versus being dead weight or dragging us backwards.
Yeah.
So we're very transparent. We're very open. My team knows that I'm completely open to being fallible. and we're all fallible, but how do we work to be our best all the time?
Yeah.
The communication has to be at a high level. And I've been blessed with a great team. What do I say?
Yeah.
They're truly, truly amazing individuals, and they want to win. And they want to win, I want to win.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. We're just here to win. And winning is taking care of people. Winning is people over profit every day, twice on Sunday, which most people will not agree with who run businesses. But I believe almost in the old field of dreams, if you build it, they will come mentality. We build this thing, we create the right energy, we have this synergy amongst the team that when you walk in, you're like, this is just like, I want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And if that happens, then as a business, we should grow.
Yeah.
But what's most important to me is that as a community that we grow and that we're empowering people one person at a time. And that allows us to move forward in such a strong way. And that makes another person want to be a part of it, another person. And there's this concept that nothing attracts a crowd like a crowd. So as we continue to crowd, more come in. So we're just crowding with positivity and optimism. And all the programs speak to that. Our kids programs, phenomenal at this point. We're over 400 kids in our bully-proof programs. And the Women Empowered program, we're pushing 150 women in that program right now. And it's because of the instructors and the team that is in there. It's not me. It's the team that is in there that is driving that ship forward.
Yeah.
Do I play a part in that? Of course, because I'm a part of that team. But none of this happens without that team. And I never lose sight of that. I think that some people lose sight of that. It's very easy to go, look what I've done.
Yeah.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's phenomenal in many ways, has a statement. This guy, of course, for those who don't know the story, many do, but like he came across as an immigrant from Austria with knowing nobody, and he became all the things that he became. And one of the things that he says is, you can call me anything you want, but you cannot call me self-made. And he then goes in to talk about all the people that helped him along the process. And I'm nowhere near this guy's level of accolades or accomplishments in life, but for where we are, I am not self-made. I'm here with this amazing team of people. Some who are no longer on the team because they've moved or done other things, and some that have been with me since day one, and some that have recently come on the team. But all of these people and the community of students that choose to come into our school, that drive past 6, 7, 9 jiu-jitsu schools to get to us, people who drive 40, 50 minutes, 60 minutes one way to come to us and train with us, these are the people, this is what makes us what we are. So I just happen to be in the right place at the right time, I think. And I believe that maybe I'm lucky, maybe I'm blessed. And do I work hard? Yes. But I really think that it's what's around me that makes this happen.
Yeah. I would say it's a combination of all those things you said, just being at the right place and just who you are. And, something that I've learned is people don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Yeah, great.
And it's something that Howard has always preached to me. And I know you kind of having the, almost same mindset. It's like you guys are one and the same. So it's always cool when you guys are collabing. I'm interested to know, with the success of your team and like any organization, if it's worth sharing, what struggles, or do you ever have any, I don't want to say problems, because I feel like you have the ability to address it and then you like move forward efficiently. But can you think of something in the past where something didn't go right with the team, and however small or big that is, and how do you guys move on from that? And the reason why I ask, Adam, is because as a researcher, as someone that loves to kind of investigate, if you will, because I have an Instagram page and I follow all the CTCs and I'm always looking, and I'm really big into like how the business side is run. It's something that Howard's taught me, and him and I are very close homies. I've known him since I was 10 years old. So there's not like, it's like I almost know what he's going to say when he's teaching, or even if we're just, out hanging out, but we don't really have issues because the boundary was already set. So it's like a switch. Like when it's time to work, he's the man. I do whatever he needs, and vice versa. And then after we leave, it's like we don't have to turn the switch on and off. It kind of just happens automatically. Yes. So I feel with your team, that's something that you developed. And for those watching that have a team or business, this is something that's so important for everyone to understand, because I don't want to come into work and have to be like, oh crap, here's the boss, because I was in the military and I had great leaders, but I also had horrible leaders. Yeah. And it taught me what I don't want to be.
Yes.
So I'm blessed to have Howard. I'm blessed to have someone like you in my life to help mentor. So I posed a question, like, what's the switch there, with your team? And if problems do arise, how do you handle it, or how do they handle it?
So I think what you stated is in reference to like not really having to switch on or off.
Correct.
The only real switch for us is, are we on stage or are we on stage? And meaning when you're off the mat, you're still on the stage like we talked about earlier. So the only little change that may happen is when we're teaching a class, there's obviously somebody leading and somebody assisting, or many people assisting, or maybe sometimes we pass that in the middle of class and now this person is leading. But creating kind of the symphony that is, and the seamless communication and everybody being on page is the key to not having those problems.
Sure.
Communication and processes are the keys to not having those problems. And problems that we may have are little, like the smallest of things. So we're micro refining.
Yeah.
All the time. We don't have macro problems of any kind. Everything is micro refinement. I could have been 10 feet this way that would have made this a little bit easier in somehow, some way, shape, or form. We could have been a little bit better in listening to the cue for when to do the thing in the demonstration. We should have seen what was going on this corner of the mat. Somebody was a little bit off point. So we have a decent sized mat, and oftentimes, we're doing standing techniques with the kids specifically, and instructors all have quadrants. They know where they need to be to ensure that not only are the children getting the attention that they need from a coaching standpoint, but the safety is in point. So when I used to play baseball as a kid, and coach said, you need to be 3 feet off of second base to play this, and I played shortstop at the time, and the second baseman's 4 feet off, like I had a problem with that. And that has to do with my perfectionism, like I said, recovering from. But what I saw was like, what's going to happen right there?
Yeah.
And because I do have a very high level of attention to detail, I believe that when you take care of the smallest details, you never have the biggest problems.
Yeah.
And the team, like I said earlier, they've come on board with this because they also see that or believe in that. So we're always working to micro refine. We have a transparent situation where if we need to, when we get off the mat, we're going to talk about how did class go? What did you need from me? What could I have done better? And we don't take offense to those conversations. We know that we're working to grow each other.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, man. So open communication, great processes and procedures, people who are dedicated to improvement and dedicated to the people that we are there to service, and walking with a positive attitude. One of the things that we always say is like, life happens offside the mat. Can you drop it at the door? So if you have something going on in your life that you don't feel that you can let go of when you walk in the school, where you go, look, like everything's great. I once heard somebody say, I never have a bad day, but I do have some bad moments. And I don't know who, there's somebody I should credit with that, but I do not remember who said it.
Nice.
But I never have a bad day. I only have bad moments. And when I have those bad moments, I accept those moments and I move in and I get on with the rest of my good day. So that's the idea. And if somebody,
so true,
it's
dude.
so good, right?
Oh my gosh.
No, like when's the last time you truly had an entirely bad day? You had bad things happen throughout the day, possibly if you want to even judge them as bad.
Yeah.
And there are for sure things that can be horrific in a human being's day, not to take that away. But do you allow it to corrupt your entire day, your entire week, your entire month? Yeah. When I was a teenager, I have a breakup and I'd be a train wreck for however long, right? Like, why are you letting that? But that also has to do with what? Life experience. That has to do with the way that we regulate or don't regulate. There's so many pieces in there.
Yeah.
But as far as the school goes, I would rather teach a class of 55 kids by myself than teach with one assistant who's not on point today.
Yeah.
One person who's got a little negative energy, because you're not helpful, you're hurtful at that point.
Yes.
So for me, everybody knows that. That's communication for me for sure within the building, which is if you're not coming in to have a great day,
don't be here.
Don't be here. It's okay.
Teach. Yeah.
I'll do the whole thing by myself. It's no problem, because I'm always going to choose that good day.
Yeah.
And teaching kids are such great teachers. Children are amazing teachers. When you're around these kids every day, every week, whatever it is, if you really can just observe them, see how they exist, all of them, they're existing in like the best space. And somebody else said, somebody I read, I think, said something to the effect of, there's only two people you need to please every day, and that's 8-year-old you and 80-year-old you. And the idea of that is when you were 8, you only cared about what was in front of you and being happy in the moment. You were very present with whatever you were doing. You were just seeking stimulation and information, and you were looking to be happy. That's what most 8-year-olds are doing. And at 80 years old, you recognize that all the things that weren't that, you don't care about anymore. They weren't even important.
Yeah.
So are you making your 8-year-old and your 80-year-old happy? But with the 8-year-olds, with the kids, one of the things that you see is there are some kids that are just inherently happy people.
Yeah.
Like they just show up, they're just happy all the time. And other kids are not. Other kids are up and down just like all human beings are.
Yeah.
But when you look at some of those kids, it's like that kid is choosing to be happy.
Yeah.
They really are in some way. Maybe they're just wired that way, but maybe it's a choice. And I believe now in my 40s, And after going through like a rough teenage years, I was not a good kid, to be very, very clear. I went through some depression, diagnosed ADHD, all these types of things. And I was always allowing the world to affect me. I didn't realize that I could affect the world. And really affecting the world could be through teaching jiu-jitsu to people that hopefully it resonates throughout their life, or it could just be the way I am today for me. Yeah. But I get to choose happy every day. Yeah. No matter what's going on in my life, I get to choose happy. So if you can't choose happy when you come in, don't come in that day. Yeah. If you can't choose happy that week, take the week off. It's no problem. Yeah. It's not an issue. I would rather have an instructor, have a member of the team, ops, whoever, say, I can't come in for 2 weeks. I have something going on in my life. I'm in a bad spot. It's not right for the energy. And I would encourage them to take whatever time they need, but remember what they get when they come into the building because of the optimism, the positivity. Everybody's optimizing in this place, right? Yeah. So maybe if you're having a rough day, maybe come in, but just come in a different spot, let the team know you're a little off, and just hang out. Just take the class instead of teach the class. Just be at the front desk talking to the kids or the families that are coming in, and allow that energy into you.
Because sometimes just being there is just changing in itself.
100%, 100%.
So true. And I love that you said that there's never a bad day, it's just bad moments. I remember recently, one of my students came up to me, he was just like, yeah, like I was hanging out with my sister, and I guess like her boyfriend had called, and like he said something, and she's like 16, and he's like, I think like 25, and like she was crying, and he was like, are you really gonna let him basically ruin your day? And it was almost the same mindset. So it's crazy how
the brother was 25?
Yeah, the brother was 25, his little sister's like 16.
Yep.
And I think, but like she was younger, and I guess she just had a bad breakup, and she was crying. And long story short, he said, are you really going to let this guy who means nothing to you or me or the family basically ruin your day? And she said, no, F him or whatever. And then he said, all right, let's go to the mall or whatever. So I thought that was cool, So I think people kind of learned that either early on, or they learned that in moments that are acceptable or not acceptable when it happens to come up, and we can kind of conceptualize it. Because I like how you used the 8-year-old mindset and 80-year-old. So H and I, Howard, we just had lunch with Joe Jennings, who was the founder of Panther Productions, which was the VHS company way back in the 80s, and they did karate, jiu-jitsu. And so he's actually one of the reasons that inspired my idea to start this podcast. So I had a chance to have lunch with him, and everything he was saying was almost like a self-reflection, because I feel like the older we get, older people share a lot of things about what they did, but they also say like, man, if I could go back, I would do this. And I kind of, like when you said that, that was kind of the message that I was kind of receiving. Like we're either in the moment at such a young age, or like we're looking back thinking, man, I wish I would have done X, Y, Z. So
yeah, we get caught up in things that don't really matter.
Isn't that crazy though, bro?
And we spend more
like
time
every day.
And I don't know. Again, I read things, I listen to people, so I don't know where to credit. But most people spend more time thinking about the past and worrying about the future than they are just here in the present. And when we're in the present, of course, you have to consider the future and learn from the past, but you can't do anything with the past. It's gone. Yeah. And a lot of us will hold on and even identify with our past, and that limits our present. And in limiting the present, we prevent the positive things that maybe are going to happen in the future. So I just feel it's really important to maintain presence and be very, very forgiving. You've got to forgive yourself. You've got to forgive the people in your life that have done you wrong. Forgiveness is so powerful. Yeah. And you don't even forgive them for them. You forgive them for you. Yeah. So that you can move forward. It's just about setting it down. Yeah. And you can choose happy. And I know that there's a lot of people right now that are not happy. There's a lot of people that are going through so many things, whether it's addiction, whether it's depression. And we see this as people come into jiu-jitsu all the time. And it's just the idea that you can choose to do it. And it's a matter of making a choice in the moment. It doesn't take a quote unquote long time. Tony Robbins was doing a talk once, and I can't remember the guy as far as who it was, but he basically said he had quit smoking, and it was a big deal. And it took me 17 years to quit smoking or something like this. And Tony Robbins looked at me and said, it did not take you 17 years to quit smoking. It took you the moment you chose to quit smoking. You simply smoked for 17 years. And that's it. It's really a choice. Yeah. And some people, like, they break up and it's like, yeah, it's just going to take some time for me to, well, I understand that, but does it really? What time do you assign to it? Or do you make choices to move forward? And I'm not a psychologist. I'm not educated in this at all. It's just my life experience. And as somebody who came up depressed, as somebody who came up from, arguably a little broken, recognizing how much power we really have and accepting that is the hardest part, is just accepting that we have a choice, accepting that we can choose happy, we can choose to make better choices, and we can find the discipline to do that. And maybe we need help from others. Maybe we need motivation from a Tony Robbins, or we need to listen to a podcast with Nick. I don't know what it is, but you can do that. And maybe for those of you listening, because we started on the jiu-jitsu tip, maybe what it is coming into a jiu-jitsu school and meeting a new community who's positive, who's supportive, who is outgoing, and people all working to be better versions of themselves while bonding over the same material, which is jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You pick up a life skill, you pick up a community, and you pick up positivity all simultaneously while you're doing something good for your body and while you're doing something good for your mind. So maybe the answer for some of us is simply getting on the mat.
Jiu-jitsu, jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu.
And speaking of jiu-jitsu, to round this off, I feel like from the time we started this, I got a good feel of white belt Adam, and kind of like as this conversation was progressing, and you're talking about different aspects of your life that kind of motivates you, your setbacks. I feel like it was white, blue, purple, brown belt. And now we talk about that polished stage of being black belt, if you will. So I would love to get some of your feedback, if you will, or just like your experience of what the black belt test was like, with whatever you can share, of course, because I know it's secret from what I've been told. But what was that preparation like? And now that you are a black belt, I hate to ask like what's next or what's going to change, because knowing you, like it's that onward, keep going, like keep being the best version. But yeah, so you're a black belt. So what was that process like, training, and was it difficult for you?
It was not difficult for me. It's just training, man. It's just another step in the journey. And I was having a conversation about potential. I don't like the word potential. I believe potential means not doing it yet. And I think it's different when you're talking about a 5-year-old that you see like this kid has potential, a prodigy towards whatever the case, or a disposition towards something. I get it.
Sure.
But kind of as an adult, it's like potential just means you're not doing it.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's this concept that like if you just show up at jiu-jitsu a couple times a week, one day you'll be a black belt. And I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
I think for some guys, maybe they're good enough to do that. But the reality is, like anything, if you truly want to master something, if you truly want to excel in something, I don't even like the word master, because I don't think we ever master it. I have not mastered jiu-jitsu, to be very, very clear.
Sure.
I think that realistically, what it is you have to dedicate and almost become obsessed with something to become an expert in that field, or to become masterful at it. So for me, it has been a nonstop pursuit of betterment for 15 years. And it took me a longer time than some. I have a buddy in Phoenix who I respect a lot. He got his black belt in like 7 or 8 years, which is crazy. And he did that in a very high level sports school under an instructor who's very well known for not handing out black belts.
Sure.
That guy put in like an insane amount of grind. But the time is not really relevant to it, and the belt isn't even relevant to it. It's just the journey. So what happens next is the same thing that happened before. Nothing changed.
Yeah.
So yesterday you're a brown belt, today you're a black belt. Yesterday you were a purple belt, today you're a brown belt. Yesterday you were 15, today you were 16. Nothing really changed. You just got your driver's license now. So you are still the exact same person. So I'm the same guy that I was. Nothing changes in any way. I continue to train. I continue to explore. I continue to be better for myself, for my team. I continue to do all I can to improve in my leadership and my communication skills. I just work to be better so that I can represent what that belt means to others in the best way possible, so I can represent what it is within this art, and that we continue to not dilute the art in any way, but we continue to reinforce the values, the characteristics, and the efficacy of what this art is. So for me, nothing changed going in, nothing changed coming out of that experience, other than the kids are excited now at the school, right?
Yeah.
The kids are on the hype. Mr. Adam got his black belt, as they call me Mr. Adam in the class, and like it's just super cool to see the excitement of others, man, at the end of the day. And I'm very grateful to have done it with the class that I did it with. On one hand, it means nothing. On one hand, it means something. It was cool to be within the 100th year of the Gracie family teaching jiu-jitsu and earning a black belt that year. Yeah. Which, again, that's just like a human thing to assign numbers to something. But it was very neat. I feel very honored to hold a black belt in this art. I feel very honored to have received it from Henry and Hidon Gracie. I feel very honored to have done it with this group of people and with everybody who has been a part of my journey, from my buddy who drugged me to a class I didn't want to go to to
shout out to him.
Shout out Bryn Aaron. Shout out to Bryn Aaron.
Love it.
Who's still one of my dearest friends, and I actually saw him just very recently. He popped into the school, and I was like, "You guys, this is the guy. That none of this would be here if it wasn't for this man. This person made all of this happen realistically in a lot of ways."
Yeah.
To the other black belts that came up together with me that are now black belts today, that earned their belts ahead of me. Congratulations to all of them. But the support that they gave me, the family, the friends, there's so many things that when I tie my black belt on, I can reflect on and think about what this represents. And yes, it represents something that has to do with technique and ability on the mat for sure within this art, and the ability to share this art with others. But it also is a representation of 15 years of discipline and 15 years of love and friendship from so many who have encouraged me and helped me along the journey.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And I'm glad that you've gotten to experience all of that. And I love the mindset you said about, from what I'm hearing, it's not something you just get, it's something that you become over time. So when I asked, how was your black belt test? You said it was easy because you've already put in the work. So yeah, dude, it's been cool to watch your journey as well. And even from a short time. So by no means am I downplaying, anything you said, but, just being in the Gracie University network for, I think, last 6 years, it goes by quick. And I remember you said that you've been to every single ICP.
Yes, so. since I joined the association, right? So since 2012 was the first ICP I attended, and here we are today, 2026. I made it a point to always show up, and I think that that's the thing that so many people don't do. I was told a long time ago by a coach that, if you want to win, you got to show up. Yeah. Because most people just aren't going to show up. That consistency is really, really critical. And what I would say, just to make sure that it's not misconstrued, I'm not saying the black belt test was easy. Sure. What I'm saying is that it was a part of the journey that I was already on. Yeah. So the black belt is just a benchmark. It's a mile marker, and it does mean a ton, and it also means nothing, right? I think Hickson said once that the belt. The belt covers 2 inches of your ass, and you have to cover the rest. Yeah. And I think that's a Hickson quote. I could be wrong, but it holds your gi together, and it does represent a huge level of knowledge. It represents a huge level of discipline. But at the end of the day, white belts, black belts, we're all the same as long as we choose to get on the mat and do jiu-jitsu together.
Man, that's so cool. So Adam, as we conclude this interview, I always like to ask my guests 2 things. So I'm going to ask you the same thing. Now that it is 2026, which is crazy, what do you have on the horizon for this year that is worth sharing, or something that's something that you've been building on or continue to do in 2026 that is important?
Yeah, we're working towards building another 100 students into the school this year, into the academy. We're over 600 right now, and we'd like to see 700. And honestly, we're going to shoot for 750 to really build this community up and really honor the space that we have now, and the team, the work they've put in to share this with others. And there's something we said for you're not supposed to share what you're working on until it pops, right? Sure. But because you asked, I'll share. I've been working for the last couple of years on building a nonprofit, and it's been far more work than I realized. When I first started, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna throw this nonprofit together. It should be pretty easy. I want to do this for women and underserviced women and children in the community, so that they can develop some level of empowerment and community through jiu-jitsu. And as I started going down that road and getting into the legalities of it and understanding the actual construct of it, I was like, oh, okay, I see what I'm taking on. This is another black belt journey that I have to go on to from white belt to black belt to figure out how to put this nonprofit together. But we're in process right now, and the goal is to kick that off before the end of the year. And then following that, I'm not happy with mats, you guys. I'm not happy with the health of mats. Mats generally are made out of this vinyl product that we train on. Yeah. And we worked very hard in our new academy. We spared no expense almost. Obviously, I had a budget, which I went over, as most people do. Yeah. But we worked very hard on the health and wellness of this space. Sure. So we used no VOC and low VOC building materials throughout the facility. We put in these very special circadian lighting the circadian lighting throughout the entire academy that's made by a company called BIOS, that company was founded by the chief lighting scientist that put the lights in the International Space Station, and it literally these lights improve biological function while you are in the space during the day. They drop at night into a different frequency that actually helps you with melatonin production. So even if you're up late training, you're actually getting better light that'll help you sleep at night.
Interesting.
We put full water filtration through the facility, so when anybody, including the children, is just washing their hands in the bathroom, there's no chlorine coming through that water, there's no chemicals or anything nasty coming through that's going to absorb into their skin. We use soaps that are non-endocrine disrupting, non-hormone disrupting. These are all things that we sourced to make sure that we had the healthiest space possible. We put HEPA air filtration in all of our brand new HVAC with these little plasma filters that shoot bad proteins. Like, we really spared no expense. But when it came to the mats, it was like, these are vinyl VOC leaching mats. And I don't know how this is going to happen, but the goal in 2027 is to start talking with mat companies, mat manufacturers, raw material sources, and figure out, is there a way that we can build a better mat for everybody, whether it's wrestling rooms in middle schools and high schools, to the Olympics, to jiu-jitsu tournaments, to those of us that have schools. Just, can we build something healthier for us to spend our lives on? So those are the things that we're gonna work on top of all the normal stuff.
Man, that's awesome, dude. So you're always striving, dude. And I love the idea of not just teaching great jiu-jitsu, but also your facility as well. And you're the first person that I know of that's really invested so much into that product, the building, and like the whole idea about the lighting. I guess those are things that most, school owners don't think of, or if they do, it's like, oh, it's too expensive. I'll just settle, if you will. It
is too expensive if you're thinking about it, but it's also like, pay now or pay later. When it comes to your health, you pay now or you pay later, right?
True.
I can eat the cheap food and I can just spend a lot of time at the doctor later, or I can pay for healthier food, have a better experience, a higher quality of life, but I got to pay up front is kind of my process with that, or my thought process. And I have this kind of motto when it comes to things, which is buy once, cry once. So you go for the best you can, oh my gosh, I can't believe that money's all burned out, or I'm in debt at this level to make this happen. But I know that when I open the doors to the academy, that I feel good about what they're walking into. And even if the students never know that they're in this special lighting, even if the students never know the water that they were touching was healthier for them, even if they never know, I know. And they often say, when we talk to the kids, we say, character is what you do when nobody else is watching.
Yeah.
So just do what you know you should do. And I knew that we should create a healthiest space possible, because we talk about health. Jiu-jitsu is so healthy. Yes, you can catch an injury, you can sprain an elbow, you can do some things, we all know. But at the end of the day, the community, if you allow it to be, is healthy. And I think that Flavio Almeida from Gracie Baja, and if I misquote this, I've only met Flavio once, so if I misquote this, I apologize to him. But I believe during a black belt promotion of one of my friends, he once said that jiu-jitsu is a physical journey, an emotional journey, a mental journey, and if you allow it, a spiritual journey. And what I would add to that, and if you allow it, a healthy journey. So thank you, Flavio, for saying that. It was really cool at the time, and if I butchered that, I apologize. But we should just do the best we can for everybody we're around, as long as we're around them.
I love it. And speaking of people, is there any last minute shout outs that you want to give to anyone out there that comes to mind? Anyone special in your life? I'm sure the list is long.
Yeah, man, that's a huge question.
If you had to condense it though,
yeah, if there were hundreds of people involved from the acquiring the lease for our new space, through the building of that new space, to the opening of that new space, just to the community of people that helped us, whether you were a subcontractor that came in and did one thing, or you were a student that was dedicated every day to helping us, if the construction crew, the attorneys that were involved, the real estate guys, everybody that was involved in that, which are too many to name, and you all know who you are. Thank you for making it happen. It was a phenomenal grand reopening. We had over 1,000 people show up. We had 35 vendors, live vendors. We had the Phoenix Fire Department, PD. The mayor of Phoenix came and did a speech and a ribbon cutting. We had so much cool stuff going on.
Yeah.
And that was just to like market. But the stuff that led up to that, the coordination of that, making it all happen, and just to everybody who's been involved in my life. And quite honestly, like you said, you have bad managers and good managers in your life, or bad leaders, or people in the military that were above you. But like to everybody in my life, whether you impacted me at the time positively or negatively, you helped me get here. So whether you're a supporter or a hater, thank you very much. And I just wish the best for everyone.
Absolutely. And Adam, where can people find your school or information about your school or yourself if someone is watching this or they just want to get in touch with you?
Yeah, for sure. You can find us on our website, which is GracieJiu-JitsuPhoenix.com, or you can shorten it to GJJPHX.com. You can jump on the website. You can find us there. You can find me there. And I think that's the best way to do it. We do have an Instagram page, but I'm not a social media guy. So I think in like 10 years, we've had, I don't know, 22 posts or something. We don't do much on there. You know, we're busy doing the work with the people that are with us, as opposed to just reaching out into the cyberspace. But I appreciate anybody who listens to the podcast and has got this long into it. Thank you. And I appreciate your patience as I ramble on. And Nick, bro, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be on your podcast. I wish you the best with this thing. I'm very excited for you. I love seeing people take on new projects and new challenges, and I hope somehow I've added value to your project.
Absolutely, Adam, and thank you for that. And yes, I'm super excited to continue this. Like yourself, it's been a lot of fun, you know, just learning the ins and outs of this industry, if you will, or the podcast industry, just like jiu-jitsu. And to go way back, right, something you said, I would say I'm a white belt with maybe one stripe now. So I'm doing pretty good. Adam, man, thank you so much for being on today's show. It was an honor to have you. Thank you for sharing your journey and opening up about, you know, some of your setbacks and just your mindset of being successful, and sharing those little nuances that people might not think of, but when they do, it's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And ultimately, I want people to know, like all of yours listening to this, that I've learned a lot from you, even from so far away, if that makes sense. But when I'm with you, it's like, I can't wait when Henner or Hidon or call the instructors, because I know when Adam talks, it's something important. So I want to thank you for that. You're a great motivation for not only myself, but, you know, for your family, friends, and all the students and all the lives that you get to touch.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Guys, thank you for tuning into the Kumite Lifestyle. Again, this was Adam Ideson. And Adam, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, bro.
Thank you, sir. You too.